What up, peoples? We got a special guest tonight. Let me go ahead and share the stream. Turn this down. All right, what up, peoples? Go ahead and share. Give me a second while I share everything. What up? What up, peoples? Got a special guest. Be coming soon. Coming through. Let me share. If y'all don't mind, share it to a group. Share it to the people. Share it to your friends. Tag somebody. Do it all. I'm just sharing it. Give me a second while I share it. Then we can get started. Appreciate everybody who's been watching, who's been following. Appreciate the love. What up, Mel? Let me stay with just share. Make sure y'all subscribe to the I don't forget what it's called. Subscribe to the YouTube. I'm sorry. Dang. All right, what up, peoples? Waiting on. We got Miss Amanda Franco, special guest tonight. All right, yep. Owner of DSL. Oh, let me see. I think we just waiting for Miss Amanda. She's getting on now. We're gonna have a great conversation. It's got a lot to get to tonight. Hope everybody's week been going well. We at the halfway point of the week. Um, we are at Hump Day Wednesday. We got Tide tournament coming up if you're in the Atlanta area. Tide Tillery's doing the tournament at Forest Park. I believe it starts at 1. Somebody could put that in the chat. I believe it's a 5-gamer, 90% of 210. So if you're in the Atlanta area, make sure y'all check that out. If you're looking for something to bowl this weekend. Oops. All right. Yep, Miss Amanda is getting on. All right, she said she's just rebooting her tablet. So she, yeah, the system. As you know, yesterday it took me a little bit to get on too because I had to do a lot of updates yesterday. So she's doing an update right now. Um, but oh, don't forget USBC tournament. Try to want at least everybody to get the ball. If we want some change, we got to put some numbers up. So let's get the entries up for that, please. Get a team. I know I got a team. I got one team. I know several people got two teams coming in. You can bowl more than once. But yeah, let's drive these numbers up. That way we can uh, get these prize fund up for these tournaments and make them worth something. Because I know a lot of people saying they don't like to bowl the USB tournaments because they're not really worth anything. So let's try to make that change. All right. And yeah, let's. All right. But yeah, let's get these entries up for that. Let me see what else we got coming up. Um, Next weekend, David Clark has a tournament, a sports shot. I know he said his prize fund he can guarantee. Um, he actually texted me. Let me see. She's having a little technical difficulties, but David Clark did text me. Here we go. First place 1100, 1125. Second place 645. Third place 375. Fourth place 250. And fifth place 125. This is prize projected fund based off of 40 prepaid bowlers. Um, and what he is doing is each bowler will bowl 4 games. Then in the field will be cut in half. Odd number keeps odd bowlers in. Each round after will be 1 game, then cut the field in half until we get to 3 to 5 bowlers based on entries. Payout is 1 to 8. Y'all can read the rest. Um, Last month's winner picked the pattern. So Alex Martin picked the 52-foot PBA Badger. So that's going to be it's a $80 entry. Um, $80 entry, but it is 100 if you do it by then. Oh, uh, laughing at Amanda's text. She's trying to get on y'all. So I'm trying to make sure I share the stream. But yeah, David Clark's a PBA 50-foot Badger is going to be his pattern. We're not releasing our pattern for the May 18th $2,000 tournament. 1,500 for the ladies. We're guaranteeing 1,500 for the ladies. So ladies, come on out and bowl. I think we had last time I checked, we had like 75 ladies signed up to bowl. So that's pretty huge. I just hope y'all definitely show up. Yeah. So and then I think we had about I think we had the same amount of men too. But I got some to add to the list. So, but yeah, I know we got over 70 bowlers, men and women so far that have signed up. That has, um, so we'll see. Come on out, have some fun. All right. And without further ado, I have Miss Amanda Franco, owner of DSL. How are you doing, ma'am?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing well. And Marvell, I see your question. It is um $80, May 19th, May 18th, May 18th. Hi, you say you're doing good. How's the weather out there in Texas?
It's a little chilly today, believe it or not. But it's supposed to warm up to the mid 80s here in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think here too it rained all day. Well, it was muggy and rained all day today.
Yeah, we
So
had some really high winds today.
yeah, it was windy today. So I guess it's the last cold front before we start getting that heat.
Oh, Lord.
Right. I'm with you.
Thank
I'd
God
rather
for
be cold.
AC and a pool.
Right. I'd rather be cold any day. Oh
Facts.
yeah. You have your own pool?
Yes, we just built one last summer.
Oh wow. Yeah. When we moved to Virginia, we had a pool in the backyard. I do not miss it. We'll say
Yeah.
that. Especially being the only child. Yeah, that cleaning duty. Yeah. That pool got old quick. And my mom still lives in that house.
Yeah,
Too.
my kids are spoiled. We have a pool guy.
Yeah, we started with a pool guy, and then we, realized how cheap it was to just do it ourselves.
I understand.
But yeah, that's what you get when you from the city, you move to the country. It's a whole different mowing lawns and everything, whole different experience.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So, but first of all, I want to thank you for joining us today. I know a lot of people was excited. I talked to a lot of people. Will want to hear the story, especially since Nick was on yesterday. He kind of gave a little preview of the backstory of you. But before we get into that, I want to talk about what got you into bowling. Where did it all start for you?
Oh, goodness. It's in my family. I guess you could say it's in the blood, right? Um, so I'm from a small town in Michigan called Mount Pleasant. Anyone that's from Michigan usually, tells people where things are at by looking at the palm of their hand. All right. So you put your right hand up, look right square in the middle, and that's where I'm from.
Oh,
Literally, right smack in the middle of the Lower Peninsula. Growing up, the town was fairly small. Central Michigan University is there, so
okay.
home of the Chippewas. But other than that, it was there was a small or a couple of industrial companies.
Mm-hmm.
One that's pretty well known nationwide called Delafield. They make refrigeration units. And then a smaller company that I think I don't know, it's been a while, but I think they supply parts for, the big three or something. I don't know, the big three automakers. But for the most part, it's just a small little working town. There's a couple of banks, there's some schools, there's, nothing crazy. Oil fields, right? So there's some oil companies around, lots of farming and rural type things. So anyway, with all that being said, I started bowling when I was 7 in a Bantam YABA league. So anyone that's been around bowling for a while knows that that's what it was, right? YABA and WIBC and ABC were the various entities before USBC came along.
Okay.
Yep. And I grew up in this small little 24 lane house, wood. Yeah. So a lot different than bowling on synthetic. My very first average was 13. 13, right? So
came a long way since then.
I try to tell people that so they don't get discouraged, right? And there was no bumpers back then, right? You didn't have any of the technology they have today, right? And the house that I actually bowled in no longer exists. They knocked it down, but it was on the edge of campus for the university. right on the main drag that goes through the middle of town. And then my parents and my grandparents used to tell me stories about how it was just a 12-lane center, and then they added these 6 lanes, and they added those 6 lanes to make it 24. So small little 24-lane house. Like I said, it no longer exists. When I first started, the owner of the proprietor of the bowling center used to take a few minutes every morning before the youth league would start, and he'd have everyone like gather around a pair of lanes and go, crisscross applesauce, right? On the approach, all the way up towards the foul line around this pair of lanes. And he would give some type of lesson. It could be, how do you hold it? How do you swing? How do you stand? Just the smallest little things, because we had these, 8-pound rubber bowling balls that we were throwing.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it's a lot different than, kids leagues today. So those little lessons, compounded each other over time. I think I mentioned on one of the sessions I did with David Clark, promoting DSB years ago, right, is I'm a 4th generation. My son is a 5th generation bowler. My dad is a Hall of Famer in my hometown. One of the youngest to ever be inducted. But my grandparents bowled, my great uncle bowled, my great great uncle bowled. So there's, I guess you could say I got started because that's what my family did. That was,
I see.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I was also coached by a female, right, by a lady, and there wasn't a whole lot of really good female bowlers in. That's probably not a good way to say it. There wasn't as many high scoring female bowlers at that time as there were men, right?
Right.
Because I don't want to say good, because there's lots of great females that came out of that program. But I had a female coach, and then I would work with my dad on the side, right? Like outside of league, because my dad was also a coach, but he coached the boys. So spent a lot of time that. And I also was a coach as a teenager. I worked with all kinds of kids, autistic kids. We had kids that started as young as 3. So I did a lot of coaching with kids when I was younger. When I was in college, they started a high school bowling club. I was the first coach for their female team that season. And then I graduated and went about my business, and that program grew and became part of the Michigan High School Athletic Association. So it's an official sport now, not just a club. So it's kind of fun to see how that's evolved over the years.
So what will be the one thing, since you have a long history of bowling, what would be the one thing you would say would be the highlight of your bowling career?
I would say I probably have a couple. But I would say the first one, I was in college. So I was bartending, going to school, and bowling, right? A lot of people's normal every day, right? And I was the first woman in my hometown association, the Mount Pleasant Bowling Association, to shoot 700.
Oh, wow.
So not 800, but 700. And I shot 3 of them during that season, and 2 other ladies shot them that season as well, just after me. So I'd say that was probably one of the big highlights. There was a 24-lane 5-woman team league, right? So it was fully packed of women. My dad wasn't there that night. As soon as I realized I had the new house record, I had the new association record for women. I literally jumped over the counter to call my dad. Right, no cell phones. Right, literally jumped over the counter to find the landline and call my dad. So there was a large news article in the local papers. So it was kind of fun. So I would say that's probably the number one. I would say the number 2 was shooting 800 for the first time. And I actually did that down in Biloxi.
Was that a tournament or
It
is
was
it?
a tournament.
Oh wow!
And
It's no time like that, like at a tournament.
yeah, it's probably not the best thing to air over the, to say out loud, right? But I was hammered. Literally. I think it was like every 2 frames I had a new drink.
The more you drunk, the more you struck.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was we were the last pair to finish that day, and there was some guys that were acting a fool. And matter of fact, I think Nick and Daphne were there that year, I think. But there were some guys acting a fool down the lanes and came running down on the approach towards us, like acting crazy while I was up trying to throw. I think it was the 10th frame, trying to throw the first ball in the 10th, and I left a 10 pin, I think it was, and I thought the people were going to go crazy because they just started yelling at them, like, how disrespectful, how rude. But I say that because that kind of would be like some UBA culture.
Right. Later on. So speaking of UBA, when did you get your start in the UBA? Like when did you first pretty much like hear about it and then start bowling?
So I had heard about it a couple of years before I actually got involved. It was starting to spin up in the Southeast. But it was still, didn't have a whole lot of interest in Georgia specifically, right? It was just kind of starting and moving its way down the East Coast. And everything was so far away that we decided, let's pass. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, my kids were pretty small too. So I wasn't trying to, commit to something like that.
Right.
But as things evolved, I think it was 20. Boy, Leonard Freeman's probably going to shoot me. I think it was 2017 was when we created Bufu.
Oh, so you were part of the initial.
2017, might have been 2016. Might have been 2016. I'm trying to remember. Might have been 2016. Yeah. So
you were one of the creators of Bufu along when it first started.
Yes.
Oh wow.
So him and I were the creators of Bufu. The idea behind it was.
I'm about to say yes. I'm about to say you have to give us how that conversation.
Yeah. So the way we were originally planning to set up Bufu, right, was he had some guys on the beach. I had people in Atlanta.
And you're talking about Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, Myrtle Beach. Yeah, in that area, right? Wilmington, Myrtle Beach. What else is over there? That area, anyway. And I had people in Atlanta that were, maybe interested. And but if we were going to do the season tour, because as we were learning more, right, I was like, man, we're not going to be driving like that. So you need to go be in a district, pick a home house that's over there near you, so you and your people can do the tour stops. And then the guys from Atlanta will get a taste of it and go to some of the bigger events. That was the original plan.
Okay.
That's not how it ended up. So he ended up, the first home house was in, where was it? Goodness. Florence, maybe? I can't remember. Might have been Florence. But it put us in the Sandhills district. So if anyone pays attention to the Sandhills district, that's where like High Octane is at. That's where Rolling Rebels bowl in. Beast, I think Chill Squad is over there. And there's some other ones, Strike and Spare. The Disciples, I think, are still in that district. So on average, if we were to go to tour stops, right, you're talking 8 hours round trip to go bowl 3 games. It's an all-day event, right? Which is why that's not what we originally had signed up for. But what ended up happening is some of Leonard's folks over there by the beach were not available for stops. And so we started getting people from Atlanta to drive. So driving from Atlanta to Fayetteville, North Carolina to bowl 3 games.
Man.
Right? So that's how it started. But there's good things that come out of that, right? So Leonard, so I was the VP for Bufu, right? So I did everything behind the scenes. I was trying to learn because I knew, and him and I agreed, that I needed to learn what I needed to learn so that we could start a team in Georgia. Right. So that was,
I went in there with the plan to start.
Yeah, that was always the plan. Yeah. So fortunately for us, we put together what I would call a power team, right? Bufu's initial year was a power team, and we selected some best of the best in the Southeast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I'm live.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, welcome to home, right? Daughter just got out of work. So this power team that we created, we ended up going through, winning our district and representing the South of Battle Bowl, and ultimately finished second. Okay, we finished second. And in that final match, when I tell you we had a power team, we had George Gohagan, we had Jack Ness, we had AJ Rice, we had Tyrone Stevens, we had Jeff Leapart, we had right, lots of really big hitters was part of that squad. We had lots of other people that were also there in the carpet chirping. That energy, if anybody can go back, I can probably find the link.
YouTube,
but if you go look on YouTube and find, I think there's multiple videos from that year, our initial year. To me, I would like to see the UBA get back to that. So we were at Carolier, which is in New Jersey, right? Different than where Battle Bowl now is in Delaware, right?
Yeah.
But then it was at Carolier, and Carolier is a very large center. There was only one center. Everybody was in one place. And the match was so intense, it was contagious, is the best way for me to describe it. It was contagious. And it was like this real production, right? So you had interviews outside between the two teams. Had, right, standing side by side, the entire team, not just one representative, right? Team and team. You had, the lights went dim and you had walkout music.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Wow. The teams, right? I mean, it was like you're at an NBA game.
Oh, wow.
Right? I mean, it was that type of a production.
Lights went dim and everything. Oh, that's
right. They did
WWE entrance.
Yeah. I mean, it was like total, and it was really, it was captivating, right? And then there was lots of trash talk. There was, I can't even tell you how much gambling was happening during that match and the amount of money that was on the line, which was crazy.
What was the nerves like?
I mean, people would walk around when I first started, and I don't see it as much post-COVID. It happened a little bit more pre-COVID, right? But people would walk around with wads of money, rubber band together, waiting to bet. Whether it was bet on a team, bet on a person, bet on strikes, bet on, whatever. Right, so it was a lot of gambling, just the environment. It's like mini Vegas, right? And there was just a lot. There was a lot going on, a lot happening. But the environment was so contagious that it fired all of us up. And Charisma Stevens, right? She was Facebook Live during the match, and both of us lost our voices cheering so much you could hear it in the Facebook Live video as the time went on, and how we just couldn't talk because we were cheering so loudly. And because her and I were both down in the pits with the team, right? There's lots of other people that were behind us on the carpet. So anyway, it was a totally different atmosphere than what you would see at collegiate bowling matches, or even, PBA or WPBA on TV, right? Be quiet, don't move, like
Right,
you're
right.
sitting in a library. No, that's not how that was at all. It was the complete opposite. Complete opposite. So ultimately, I created DSL in 2018 is when I created DSL. And we started with 24 people that I had originally brought to Bufu, and we just split.
So when you got to, so let's fast forward a little bit to when I got to Georgia, and
Mm-hmm.
I see DSL everywhere. I see the jerseys everywhere. I see the flag at Lilburn. What was the idea behind? Because elephant in the room. Y'all always get criticized for how large your roster was
Mm-hmm.
in that initial part before Georgia started to grow. What was the initial thought in building that roster?
So, first of
Was it
all, the UBA doesn't have a cap on how many people you can have on your roster, number one. Some people have different philosophies, right? When we first started, 24 seemed like a good number to get us started. People were pretty dedicated, but it was a lot of travel. Like people that are joining now have no concept of the amount of travel. Right? I mean, because not only were we doing season tour, but we were also doing team rankings. Right? So I mean, we're traveling, when we had matches with someone like Hitman, for instance, or Watchmen that are, 6 hours away from us, right?
And then you have to meet up halfway.
Halfway every other week, plus you're driving 4 to 8 hours, for a tour stop. It's a ton of travel. I mean, you really had to be dedicated. So we started to realize that not only was the travel getting to be a little rough for the smaller group of us, but the group was also tournament bowlers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Predominantly tournament bowlers. So then we ran into scheduling challenges, right? So we had, the Southern Rodman, the TNBA Southern Rodman, for instance,
Yep.
right, would be the same day as either a tour stop or an event. The 250 Masters, which happens at the end of April. The Bradley. Yep. There was lots of these tournaments, and it wasn't just local tournaments, right? It was big tournaments that people planned in advance. And so here we get the new UBA schedule, and it clashes, and we are like, we need 9 bowlers. We only got 7. Because everyone's gone to a tournament, right? So we knew we had to grow. And so we initially had thought about, let's just put a cap at 50 internally, right? Because I was still the head and everyone was coming to me. Well, 50 people getting questions on a regular basis is hard to manage.
Yeah. And right? The same question over and over.
Yeah. So it wasn't always easy. Right. And I run into people at tournaments, at league, in the grocery store, right? Plus, IMs and texts and phone calls. So we knew we needed to grow. We thought, okay, let's just put it at 50. But then we still had the same type of situation from an availability perspective. So we tried to get people that we just said, okay, you know what? If people are interested, if people want to bowl, we want to grow this area, let's not put a cap on the team. Let's let whoever wants to come, for the most part, let's let them join until, and get a feel of what it is, in hopes of people would be excited and want to go start their own team.
Right.
Because ultimately that's what the goal was, right? We started DSL, and then we want to expand in Atlanta to get our own district and be able to compete. And so this is on all the travel.
So I'm glad that you answered that. We have you on because now we can clear up a lot of rumors. So the rumor that I heard was that y'all was trying to build the powerhouse to put Georgia on the map, to be like, Georgia's the best bowlers, hands down. That's what was the rumor that I heard, that the reason why DSL had so many members is because you wanted to put Georgia on the bowling map. Is that not true?
I can understand why somebody might say that, but that really wasn't the intent. Gotcha. We didn't have to prove anything to anybody. We already knew we were the best.
Woo, I
with
like that.
24, right?
I like-
With 24, that our 24-man roster, when we started, we knew we had the best roster at that point.
And as y'all did, because looking
Right.
at
And
those names,
yeah, I mean, some, some people would argue that, and we have the best roster on paper, that our problem is people showing up. And that comes back to the availability and the tournament stuff that I just talked about.
right, and I agree
Right.
with that. Being
So,
an owner, I see that now. Yes,
right. So, now that it didn't have, some would say DSL has an ego problem, right? That's one of the rumors I've heard, even since I've left Georgia, right? DSL has an ego problem. No, DSL knows what we have. We've always had talent. That's never been the question. It's been getting our talent to all click and be available at the same time to go win.
Available. Yep. Dre was on here last Friday, and he said his quote was, "The best ability is availability sometimes."
Yeah.
And that is a big truth.
Right. When we have guys, for instance, like AJ, right? AJ Rice, right? He bowls for a living. If he's got a choice between bowling a tour stop or bowling somewhere else to make cash in a bigger tournament, we're not going to see AJ at a stop.
Right. And that's right. It's understandable.
Yeah. In addition, the other reason why we started to grow, and this is what probably a lot of people don't know or don't understand, is our mean age of our bowlers is a little bit older than some other teams, right? So we have more life events that are occurring, right? So we've had to deal with things like health issues, losing parents, taking care of parents, divorces. Not that that doesn't happen to everybody, but we had lots of this happen all at the same time. I just like to call it life events, right? We had a whole lot of life events going on at the same time. And so our people that I would call our core were affected by some of that. And so when the core is unavailable, it's hard to get other people engaged.
Yeah. And like you said, like you just said, that chemistry too, to have the chemistry.
Absolutely. So ultimately we said, okay, let's just let people in. We'll build up. I mean, and we had over 100 people. I think we're under 100 for the first time in a couple of years right now. But we're looking to trim back down because it's local now.
Yes.
For the most part. So what we've been trying to do for the last, 5 or 6 years is starting to come to fruition. So we don't have to have 100-person roster anymore.
Right. Now, talk about real quick, since we're kind of in that direction, talk about what it means to you now to see the growth of Georgia with the UBA. Because like, and I told you this in our messages, so a lot of us call you the godmother of Atlanta bowling because of the roster that you were able to build. We cannot deny the greatness and what you build, and not only what you build, in order for a lady to build that. And we're going to touch into that also, because I think that isn't recognized enough, that you were also, you're one of the first females to actually own a team in the UBA. One of the first. I know there was somebody before you, if I forgot they said it.
There's a handful. Yeah, there's a couple of really good ones. Yeah.
But for us, the South, to build the not only just to build, but build arguably the greatest team there is. What does it mean to you now to see the growth and knowing that you had a hand in that?
So what I would say to that is perseverance, right? And I'm not even in Georgia anymore, right? All of you know that, I moved a couple of years ago to Texas, right? For personal reasons, right? Life happens. And I'm still involved, and to be able to see the growth and to see, folks like yourself stepping up to the plate and building your team. I remember when your team just started and all the questions and the problems you ran into, right? It's not always easy when you don't have someone to help pave the way. But the more and more people get engaged, the more growth is going to happen. And it's great to see it. I'm not one that likes, to pat myself on the back and, woo, yay, you did it. But I'm happy that more people are getting involved. I'm even happier to know that some of the things we didn't know that we tried and wasn't sure if they were going to work. So for instance, when I created with Anthony Schaller and Barbara Smith, when we created the Deep South Bowl, that was really one of the drivers for that was, hey, let's do something here to get more people bowling, number one. And number two, let's advertise the UBA and get people interested so that we can cut, again, not just for people on DSL, right? But so that we could slow down the amount of miles we're putting on vehicles, right? And leverage our time so that we could have more family time, right? We didn't have to be road warriors. So DSB was a vehicle to help with that, right? And unfortunately, right, I was only able to do it twice because Anthony moved as well, and Barb lives in South Carolina now, and there's nobody local.
And that was a fun tournament. That I had a ball.
Yeah, and I still to this day, matter of fact, I got a message yesterday. I still get people asking me, when are you going to do it again? And I'm like, I have to, let me see what I can, work out. Because, life has got me pretty locked down. Right. But the hype that we got from that, not just the tournament, but the interactions, the people, and then it got people talking about, because you'd wear your UBA jerseys, right? So that, you saw DSL everywhere.
Everywhere.
We had lots of DSL bowlers bowling in that, right?
Like, I saw it so much at first. When I first started seeing it, I thought it was like somebody's brand, like somebody made a brand. That's what I thought at first. It was everywhere. I was like, oh, somebody popular made a clothing line called Dirty South Legends. That's what I
you're
thought.
Not the only one. Yeah. There was a lot of people asked, especially like during COVID when, there wasn't a whole lot to do. Mm-hmm. And we had started to do those little tournaments.
Yep.
Probably right around the time you came to town, right?
Yep. That was the tournament that got me in ownership.
Yep. And so next thing you know, I'm having all these sidebar conversations instead of running the tournament, right? Trying to get people involved, sending them to places to get information. So it just kind of evolved from there. And so to sit back today, there's two things I've seen, right? So one is I've seen the growth in the Atlanta area in itself, including my own team. I've seen participation increase, right? I think I saw a stat earlier today that Amanda Stone had put together. I think over our stops so far of the year, we've had 39 bowlers that have participated, right? We only have a handful of bowlers that have more than 18 games in. Because we can rotate, right? We've got depth in our roster, right? Thinking about, the NCAA tournament, right? We kept talking about, having depth on the bench and what the bench can do when they come in and the points that they score, right? I mimic that with DSL, right? We've got a large roster, but we've got a huge bench that we can intertwine. Yes. We don't have like 3 powerhouse or 5 or 10 powerhouse bowlers. We probably got 20, right? Off the top of my head, and we can interchange them.
There's no drop off from your A, B, and C team D.
Right. We've got some really good people engaged right now, and the chemistry is continuing to grow. I saw that in the match, the tour stop this past weekend. I was able to see Ty Tillery was live, so I was able to watch part of it, right? Because they were both High Caliber was bowling against us, right? So I was able to see the communication that was happening. That's still growth, right? Yeah. Within my own team. So to see Atlanta grow, and then now, since I've been in Texas, I've had people reach out to me and like, hey Amanda, are you going to start stuff in Texas? Well, I didn't have to start it; somebody else did. Yeah. Right. So now there's a separate conference and district here in Texas. And so that they're starting to grow there. So watching all of that is it's kind of fun. It's like watching your child grow.
And I think you should pat yourself on the back because, like you said, you for what you started, what you what you've been able to accomplish with the, like you said, I wouldn't even say they have egos, but when you have that many great people and for them to be as dedicated as they are, and lift you up, as I don't ever hear nobody say anything bad about Amanda. Like that is to be patted on the back for it. Like you are, like I said, the godmother of Atlanta bowling. Because you were able to help jumpstart a lot of this stuff and also kind of get the competitiveness back into bowling. Especially here in Georgia, it is at an all-time high right now. Like you gotta be you can't sleep. You can't just walk in a bowling alley and chill no more. Like the competitiveness, the light trash talk, and I think it's slowly getting back to that gambling area where it was. And I think huge part of that is y'all, and then it's also a huge part of which I think should be commended is people that want to be like DSL. There's people that's trying to everybody's trying to build a team to beat DSL, and that only happens if you're good or one of the greatest. And I think that should be patted on the back. And also, like I said, to do it as a lady and have the caliber of ladies that you have on your team. Um, what is that like to be able to know that you could damn near put a 9 female unit out there and still have full confidence? What is the what is that feeling like to know that you have also not only just you as a great lady bowler, but you have a team full of lady bowlers? What is that like for you?
So I guess I don't think of it like that, although I understand why others do. Um, I know that a few years ago, you know, anyone who's in the UBA knows that Goat's got a fantastic team, right?
Mhm.
And they have fantastic lady bowlers as well. Um, but we used to joke, right? Some would take it a little bit more serious than others, right? But we used to joke that you know you guys are so good, but you won't bowl us. Why? And granted, there was a lot of trash talk associated with some of those discussions, right?
Mhm.
Not again, the goats females are fantastic, and during that time frame, I would say arguably we had a extremely great female lineup. We've lost some of them now, right? They've gone to other teams for for whatever reasons. But we still have, excuse me, a great crew of ladies, right? And I will tell you, um, Tamika Jackson has joined us more recently and is a pleasure to have on our team.
Oh yeah, she's a monster.
Right? Not only is she tough on the lanes, but she's motivating off the lanes. And
But she supports.
she totally supports. She's all about supporting the team, and she's now one of our officers on our team. So I mean, in a very short order, she's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it
Mhm.
better. How can I help?" And not that men don't do that, but a lot of women, it almost feels like that's their natural role, right? Is just to be supportive and not
Mhm.
be the doer. But she's a beast, right? And I think we have Critical Role in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Better make sure they got some lefties because
Yeah,
Southern Lanes. If I can get her to bowl, I want her on the lanes, right?
yeah,
uh,
she
because
she
she's
is a
fantastic. But we've got
Mr.
charisma. We've got I mean, I don't know how many we have now, but we've got quite a few ladies over 200, right? And I will put our ladies up against other teams. I just would. I have confidence in them. They have confidence in themselves. They communicate well. To me, that's what's important. And they're comfortable bowling with each other. They're also comfortable bowling with any of the guys on our teams, right? And what I like about, our team is that nobody is afraid or uncomfortable having a lady on a pair with them,
right.
including the scratch pair. right? Including the scratch pair, right? Tamika can easily sit on the scratch pair if that's what we needed, right? And I'm picking on her just because I think she's got one of the higher averages, right? Quantrell is on our team. She doesn't have an opportunity to bowl a whole lot, right? She's another one, right? She could bowl on that scratch pair and whoop the tail out of some men,
Yes.
right? And I think just from a natural ego perspective, I don't think any man wants to get beat by a woman, no matter what it is. It could be playing checkers, it could be jumping rope, it could be running a marathon, it could be bowling. I don't think any man wants to get beat by a woman.
I don't mind nowadays. A lot of it. You start to realize some of these females, boy. I ain't gonna lie. Like I think I had a conversation with Tamika before, and I told her a lot of times when I look at people releases and stuff, a lot of females bowlers is what I look at because they're so consistent. They don't try to do nothing extra, nothing out the way. Females have the same release. And I also be lying to you if I didn't tell you I didn't try to build the outsiders females based off of, what I see from the DSL females. I was like, I think it was like halfway into our first season. I was like, yeah, we need to get some females on this team. Yeah, we need. I was like, and then there were some good ones, that I still didn't know what the UBA was. So I got a little bit lucky, and the females that I have, I can definitely love them. I love to see them bowl. Glad to see a lot of them that are bowling now, like Tarika Johnson, Darcy Evans, Latanya Jules, Tony McQuarrie. I'm real excited that Tony McQuarrie is now in the UBA, and bowling now. She's actually excited to bowl, and that's always fun. I love it when the females jack me up in the corner and say, "Yo, I want to bowl a tour stop."
It's a different kind of feeling, right?
Yes.
We've got a couple of new ones this year. So we've got Cassandra Lewis that's now with us.
Yes, my teammate. I wasn't happy about that.
We also have Tara Martin has joined our team. So we have her, but I mean, we still have, like I said, we've got Claudia Meeks, we've got we've got Tamika, we've got Quantrell, we have Charisma, we have Tanya Embry, we have and I'm just going off the top of my head here. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. We've got ladies that don't live in Georgia, right? We've got Yolanda Hickman and Haisha Griffin that live in Virginia, right?
DSL is everywhere
that are on DSL, right? So I mean, we've got we just have ladies, and it's a great mix, right? It's a great mix, and to be honest, if we didn't allow ourselves to have what I'm going to call an open roster, we might not have had those all of those people, right? Male and female, to be honest with you. And one of the things that we really like, just DSL as a whole, is part of what we have is we try to create a family culture, right?
Right.
So we like having couples on our team, right? So we've got, Eugene Beeks and Keisha Beeks, right? We've got Corey Richardson and Candace, right? I mean, and it's an advantage for us because if they're available, sometimes we're hoping both of them are available. So now that's one of our 9 spots, right?
And that makes sense.
So I mean, there was a lot, and I gotta tip my hat, right? So since I have left Georgia and live in Texas, I don't actively recruit like I once did for DSL, right? But I will tell you that before Josh Rondino left the team and went to Critical Role, he did a lot of recruiting and brought people on board. And well, the GOAT Tyrone is just, we are so lucky to have him as part of our team, right? And Tyrone and I, when I asked him to be the VP for DSL, there's a reason. One, I needed somebody that could be a little bit more stern to some of the more scratch bowlers, right?
Right.
That might not have the same level of respect. Not saying that, it's intentional, right? But I needed, we can play good cop, bad cop, so to speak, when
Yeah.
we needed to. But since I've left, he has been an amazing force. He's out, he's in people's ears, he's talking to our bowlers, he's talking to bowlers that are not on UBA teams yet, getting them excited. And I
Yes, he
see,
is.
that's one of the things that I see as a difference maker in the growth, not just with DSL, but with the UBA as a whole.
Yeah, I can definitely agree because I see him lobbying, and then I'm doing the same, for my own team with recruiting. I say, oh yeah, Tyrone already talked to me about it, so I get so yeah, he definitely be hitting the pavement, and it's also alerting to me, which raised the competition, I think, to know, if a team that good is still, recruiting to get better, like we just can't sleep. You know what I'm saying? And I think that just makes, the competition and makes the matches better. And hopefully, the UBA starts to make some events down here, down here to Georgia. But
Eventually.
let now putting your UBA hat on,
Yep.
what are some of the things that you would like to see changed in the UBA for the better?
Ugh. Ugh.
Start the conversation to make the change.
I know, right? A general bowling one is easier than UBA, but I'll go UBA. So for UBA, there's a few things I would like to see. Number one, I appreciate the fact that they are continuously willing to be open to feedback. But I don't think that presidents and owners of teams feedback is collected early enough to affect change in a more expeditious manner.
That makes
Um,
sense.
right? A lot of times feedback doesn't come until after the rules come out,
Yeah.
right? Instead of having a forum or a
Yes.
council or something in advance. And granted, not everyone is going to participate, but give them an opportunity to chime in.
Yep.
A
That's what I
couple of
said. A
things that
council.
come to mind. Yeah. I had somebody ask me earlier today, as an example, last season, so last July, right? July 2023 is the first time the opt-out period has been the entire month of July,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's usually only been a week within July, like the
Yeah.
first week,
First.
the first
Yeah.
week before playoffs start, right? Typically was
Which
in
is
that
crazy.
time frame, right? Where if you really want to leave a team, that's your opportunity to do it without being penalized, right?
Yeah.
Now that it's a whole month and you could go through, now granted there's rules around it, right? But the whole month, and then you could change teams and go to a battle bowl with a different team. I don't know that I like that, but it is what it
I
is,
agree with you.
right?
Yeah. I agree with you because that happened this year, didn't it?
Yeah, it's happened a few times. I mean, nothing is ever going to be perfect. What I like is that we've got some people in places that are willing to listen, even if they don't agree, right?
Right.
They're willing to listen to the feedback. So that's one. Probably my biggest gripe for this year, oh my gosh, is the jerseys. I'm so over the jersey companies. So I'm pretty calm and collected, right? I deal with business all day long. So I understand roadblocks and delays, and I get it. It is the customer service aspect that's lacking, right? And now I'm confused. Can we order from both companies, and how does that work? And
Right. What it?
it's I understand that you might need it for overflow or whatever. It's not transparent enough for me.
Right.
Besides the
And we
fact,
don't even know who is what and what is who.
exactly, who's on first. I want to know who's on first.
Right. Right.
Who's
Right.
on first? And I expressed some frustration earlier in the season because I had been working with the new company to get our yeah, isn't that the truth? To get the our logo over and get our new designs in. So we had designs that were similar to our existing jerseys, but they weren't exactly the same, right? So I was working with them and I'm emailing them, and we had to, one of the samples did not come out right. We needed to change some things. And the response I got back was, "You're emailing the wrong company." I'm like, whoa.
Yes, after you just had a whole conversation with somebody.
I've been emailing you for a week back and
Right.
forth. And now I'm emailing. Yeah, no. And
Yep.
I was able to reach out to Tynell, and I got an apology email in like 10 minutes. Right? Said, "Oh, sorry, my bad," kind of thing. Well, okay, but I should have never got that in the first place. And nobody should get that.
Right.
Not just
That's
me,
still
but
alarming.
nobody should get that.
That's not like a oh, we got the wrong color. Like you made me feel like I was in a, that's like going through a drive-through at McDonald's. You pay your money, and then when you go to the next window, you at Burger King, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Exactly. It was crazy.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. So the other, and not just that, right? So the other thing is, with the jersey companies is their sizes are not the same.
Oh my gosh. Oh my, that is.
I don't care how many size charts they send me, they're not the same.
Yes. I was looking at a video of myself and I was like, wait, that shirt is baggy. I was like, what size is that? And then, yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm not ashamed to share, right? So I'm not a small woman, right? So I need extra large jerseys, and I don't like anything tight, right? Me personally, I need room and comfortable, right? Okay. So the first jersey company, I had ordered 3 different size jerseys and still couldn't get the right size for me, right? So $150 down the drain, right? Still couldn't get the right size. Oh, by the way, every one of those I had to pay extra $10 for each one, or $2, whatever it was, right? Because I had to keep getting bigger size in a ladies cut, right? Gosh. So let's just round it up and let's just say 160 for conversation purposes, right? Out of the, down the drain, because I can't wear them. Or I shouldn't say I can't wear them. I won't wear them because they're too tight for me. I had to get a men's cut. In order for a men's 2X, I had to get a men's 2X to try and get it to fit. And it looks like a dress on me. Right? So it fits me in the places that the other one didn't, but now it's a dress, right? And it was a hot mess. But I was like, you know what, whatever. We'll just go with it, right? So again, I had to order some more jerseys in that. Now here's a good thing about the new company, right? The new company, I'm back in a woman's size. Right?
Right.
So in comparison, I think I went all the way up the one company. I think it was like a ladies 6X just to try and get something that was remotely comfortable, right? And was still too small. I'm in a ladies, I think it's a 3X in this company.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's not even remotely close. I'm like, where do you get your sizing chart? China?
Yes.
I feel like I'm ordering everything from overseas.
Now, granted, I love the new website. The new website is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Finally. Like, now, can we get the other website done now?
I know, right?
That thing looked horrible.
Yeah. So let's see. So I'll get off my jersey soapbox. Another thing that I would change, I would say, on the UBA is I would like to see, and it could just be different because I don't know, right? But I'd like to see more of the entertainment side come through. So when I first joined, that was part of the excitement. So you saw a little bit of it when Casey had the Vixen's belt, and she would do those little videos of whoever was up next, right? But there used to be a cameraman and a guy with a microphone that would walk around during tour stops, and they were just in your face.
And I
And
thought
people would
about doing
talk
that.
trash. And
Yeah.
to me, that's part of the culture that somehow we've gotten away from. Because now, to me, in comparison, if it almost feels like it's just a travel league, and it's really supposed to be more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I when I first joined, I saw it too, and I tried to implement with a lot of the TikToks being the fact when TikTok was new at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and I was going to apply to be, that person for as the entertainment and but I'm gonna be honest with you, the Jersey Company thing kind of rubbed me the wrong way to the point where I was like, y'all business affairs aren't in order for me to take my time, away from my family to,
Right.
dedicate and do that. Like, and y'all can't even get right because as an owner, sometimes people give us their money, and we have to answer for it. And I don't,
Absolutely.
I hate dealing with other people's money like with a passion. Like it makes me cringe because if I don't have an answer for them, I don't want you to think I stole your money or nothing, or went to Vegas with it or something. So
Right.
like it makes my skin crawl to deal with other people's money, in that capacity. So when the whole Jersey thing happened with me and is continuing to happen, it really rubbed me the wrong way, far as the way they do business. Because I would have loved to do it. Like I still do. You see me do little silly stuff from here and there just to get the page jumping when it's boring sometimes. Because I agree with you. um we need that little entertainment file. Like that's what sets it, like you said, that's what sets it different. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it fun. The
Right.
more trash talk, the videos, like the match we just had with Critical Role, that was so much fun. And even last year, the one we had with Complete Anarchy, and Anchor, was a joy. And uh, wait, I don't know if you've seen the have you seen the president's page today with
Not
Ray?
today. Was there something new out there today?
Yeah, on the president's page, Ray said something about a camera. Somebody, I guess
Oh,
that's
yeah, I think I did glance at that. I didn't realize that was on the president's page. But
yeah,
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 about what stop to come to.
yeah. Wait till you see my reply. Um, soon as we finish. uh, but yeah. But I agree with you. I would love to see more of the entertainment side, more of the trash talk, more of a I guess you would say like a WWE type feel.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean,
where
that
people
when
don't
I
take it so
first
personal.
started, that's what I used to describe it. It was um travel league that got overtaken by the WWE,
Hmm.
because that's the feel it had. It
Yeah.
had all the drama and excitement that, WWE fans have, right?
Right.
Um, and a friend of mine used to be a professional wrestler, so he lived for that mess. Um, right, but it's that, and it just seemed like it's just gotten a little quiet in what I would say, away
Here.
from the original culture. But I think there's, various things. I think there's still a level of, um, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? The
Excitement.
cancel culture society that we're living in right now.
Um,
Um, and
People just sensitive. You could just say
people are
that. They're
sensitive.
just
Yes,
sensitive, man. Yeah,
yes.
they're just sensitive nowadays. They're just
Yeah, they're
too
very sensitive,
freaking
and
sensitive.
you have to be careful, right?
Yes,
You really have to
I
be
made a
careful.
comment. I made a comment saying the Outsiders was the top three team in the South, and they went berserk. I was like, yo, it was just a comment, like just to kind of stir things up, and people just took it to the ultimate heart. They were offended. I got messages talking about how dare you. I was like, all right, guys, it was just a fucking joke.
Like, chill out
Relax.
already.
Like, God, dog. Like, I
Every
was
once in
just
a while, yeah, every once in a while I'll chime in. And in general, DSL are not keyboard warriors,
right, right.
right? we're fairly quiet. And even sometimes on the lanes, we can be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you poke the bear,
Yeah.
be
Yep.
careful what you're poking,
Mm-hmm.
because you might poke the bear and not realize what's
Oh
ready
yeah.
ready to be unleashed, right? And we've got some hype people on the team now that talk
Oh
like
yeah.
people
Oh
used to
yeah.
think I talk. I don't talk nothing like some of the other people we've got on the team right now.
Oh yeah. I ain't gonna say no names, but I'll see somebody. They gotta say something every single time. I'll be like, man. They say it every single time. I'd be like, man, this is we're not at a tour stop right now, man. They it just it just don't matter. But I love it though. I love it. It's what we signed up for. It's
Yeah,
exciting. It was
it's
fun coming into our first year because we were kind of like the little brother, little sister
mm-hmm.
team
Yep.
of y'all. And it was definitely, enjoyable that first year. And then even going into the second, making a playoff push, which was fun. And I'm praying we can get back there. But with y'all being number one in the district, how far do you see y'all going this year? What is the goal this year?
You already know what the goal is. Come on now. I don't have to sit in my office in Texas to tell you that.
So okay, let me ask it a different way. Let me ask, will the conversation finally be ended of DSL doesn't take tour stop serious? Will that conversation finally be put to rest this year?
I think you're already seeing it.
And that's true.
Right. And again, it goes to what I said early on, right? We have 39 different people that have bowled in tour stops this season, right? So we've got a deep bench, and paying attention to um who's eligible for playoffs, right? Because
Right.
that's where we're expecting to be, right? Is in playoffs, making sure we have, a solid roster where I don't just want 10 people, right? We need a solid roster. The plan is for more than 10 people to show up in, playoff time, right? That we're gonna have, people in the carpet, people in your ear. It's really gonna test people's mental, right? That's what the UBA is really about, right? You can be the game is 20% physical and 80% mental, and we watch that. If you go back, like when we were on Bufu and we were in a match against Goat, we were able to rattle one of their guys.
Mm.
I mean, we
That's all it
rattled
takes.
him good.
That's all it takes is
and
one.
he and I mean, he was hot. Don't and Leonard would have to tell you the guy's name because I can't think of it right now. I could see him, but I can't think of his name. But he was not a happy person whatsoever. I think he left a 7-10. I mean, it was, and then we really went crazy, right? Making noises and just, it. So I would expect that, DSL is going to make a push. We've got, like I said, more people involved. Um, we have different problems than we've had in the past because it's more local, right? So
Yeah.
DSL not paying attention to tour stops. No, that's not the case now. We've got a little bit more engagement, like I shared earlier. But I think the other thing that's important, right, is that um, we're motivated.
Mm.
We're motivated.
Mm.
So let's just be real. This is just it doesn't have to be
Mm.
bowling. It could be anything. Who doesn't want to be on a winning team?
Right. Right.
Sign me up for the loser team. Nobody wants that, right?
Right.
I mean, even when you're in, grade school getting picked on the kickball team, right?
Mm.
Nobody wants
I
to
want
sign
to
up
get
to be
picked
on the
last.
loser team. And I saw this with Bufu, even after we left them, right? And split off, when his team was winning, he had lots of engagement. When his team was losing, it was like, what happens? Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens sometimes, but I don't anticipate seeing that with DSL. We've got, like I said,
With
we've
39
got a
total,
lot of good players. They're
a lot
having
of
a good
great players.
time, and even when the shot's not easy, right? Like, I guess whatever we bowled on in
Oh,
Anderson that last time, whatever
longer.
that mess was, right? Somehow grinded to get the win. Had one of the lowest pin counts of the whole center, but still came out with the win. I'm so proud of them for that,
Yeah,
right?
and
You just can't give up.
I will have to admit, because I have not seen, to be honest with you, when I've seen y'all bowl, I don't see a lot of talking. It's almost like y'all kind of have like a Jedi tele, telepathic conversation, but I don't see a lot of conversation. But when I went over there to Anderson, and I went over to y'all pair, I saw Justin Gibbons coaching Jaime, talking to Terrence. I haven't seen them talk. I've seen, and I'm not saying they don't. I don't want this being misconstrued the wrong way, but it's like I've seen Jaime and Justin Gibbons in the building before, and I don't think I've ever seen them talk. But like you said, with that being a difficult shot, I've seen them engaging with each other, a lot. That tour stop, because like you said, y'all know when it was time to lock up. Y'all know, it's like y'all could tell who needs help, who needs this, what they need, and like you said, y'all grinded that out for the win,
Yeah,
which
and
was not
we
tough,
see
was
that
not
even
easy.
on the live feeds, right? So, um, I'm sitting in Texas. I'm miles away from everybody, right? I'm in Texas, and I might be texting someone and say, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing. Is that what's happening? They need to make this adjustment."
Right.
Right? Or, hey, that's the wrong ball in their hand. Or Tyrone is fantastic at ball motion, seeing ball
Mhm.
motion. And he doesn't even have to be in the building. He's the same way. He can see it and get on somebody's phone to get the attention, say, hey, this is what needs to happen, or tell them to slow this down, or slow your hand roll down, or whatever it might be. So we're always watching and trying to coach, even if people don't see us.
Now let me ask you this, and I'm gonna ask you to share a secret if you could.
Yeah.
How do you get, and I also want you to talk about, because we kind of blew past it a couple of times in our conversation, that carpet support, how important that is, and how do you get, because, and I know y'all have a lot of bowlers that's everywhere, and I don't want to make this light, because I've seen your bowlers travel and not bowl. How do you get that support, that carpet support, to people? Because you hear it a lot. Oh, I'm not going, I'm not bowling, or how do y'all continue to get that support from each other?
Well, I think first of all, part of our recruiting strategy helps, right? We tell everybody out of the gate, look, we have a large roster, and if you're looking to bowl a lot, we might not be the right team for you. You might need to go look at a team that's got a smaller roster so you can get more lane time, right? So number one, I think honesty and transparency, number one. Number two, we explain that anything can happen. Anything can happen. We've had people on their way to a tour stop and something happens. We've had the morning of a tour stop and a medical emergency happens. You never know. So we almost
Mhm.
always prepare to have at least 10 or 11 people go to every stop. Now, we're not always successful, right? And then there's other times we have, 15 or 20 people that go to a stop, right? When it's local, it's a lot easier to get more people on the carpet than when you're driving like those time frames I was telling you earlier, right? We're driving to Fayetteville, North Carolina to bowl 3 games. It's hard to get extra people to just
Yes.
take their Sunday and go for a drive,
Right.
right? It's a lot better and easier to, hey, can you guys drive across town for a couple hours? It's a little
Right.
easier to do that. So that's part of it. I would say the other part, and I don't mind sharing this secret. This is something that we do as a team, and we we give incentives to our teammates based on participation. So if you're a bowler, you get so many participation points. If you're on the carpet, you get so many participation points. And those points at the end of the season, that's how you get paid in our team,
Mm.
right? So it helps having an incentive, right? So to me, it's 2 factors. One, it's more local and it's not as much travel. And two, we give incentives.
That's pretty dope. I never thought about it like that. Pretty yeah, pretty
And we
good.
have somebody who keeps track of, right? We already know who the lineups are, but we have someone that also keeps track of all the people that are there on the carpet.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
that
we
makes
track it
sense.
every week or every stop.
Um, so say you telling too much, but now,
That's all right. That
but
one
now
I don't mind.
that is a good get. Now we mentioned team rankings, and I know they're trying to get the participation up, especially with the Georgia team. Can you go into a little bit what team rankings is?
Okay. So we did not participate this year. What team rankings is it you can think of it similar to the belt series, right? The heavyweight belt series or the Vixen series, right? The belt matches. Um, it has a little bit of that same type of flavor, but not exactly, right? So there's a qualifier that happens in September, right? And you it's 6 players instead of 9 players that you would have for a season tour. And you have 3 scratch, or let me say it differently. You have a person that goes heads up singles, then you have 2 people that go heads up doubles, and then you have a third pair that is um, trios, but there's an average cap, 645 average cap on the trios pair. So at the qualifier, the singles and doubles, the 3 players that would be singles or doubles, they're on one lane, and the trios pair is on the next lane. So a team has a pair of lanes. So your team is the only one bowling on that pair, right? You're bowling against all the other teams in the qualifier, and then not only do you get an event payout like you would like any other event or tournament, right? But then based on your total pinfall, then your team gets ranked, right? You get seeded based on total pinfall, right? 1 through however many, 25, whatever it is. Then what happens is then they start doing the matches. So in the very beginning, um, it's determined who bowls who, right? In the initial match. You have to win 21 points or more. So it's similar. Remember, I said singles, doubles, and trios, right?
Right.
All scores are scratch, but the trios pair has a handicap, or I'm not handicap, average cap, right? The points are just like they are for tour stop, right? You 10 points eligible on singles, 10 points eligible on doubles, 10 points eligible on trios, and then 10 overall. Okay. Same concept as far as points are concerned. To
Right.
win the rankings match, you have to win 21 points or more, right? So more than half. If you win, right? You if you win, then you if you're the person that's at a lesser seed and you win, you swap. So if I'm
Oh wow.
a
Okay.
number 10 seed and the outsiders are number 8 seed and we beat you, we go to 8, you go to 10.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then there's lots of rules about how how many spots, because then now what happens is now you call people out, you call teams out, because ideally you want to get to the top, right? You want to get to the top and stay at the top. So you can only call out up to 3, a couple of teams ahead of you, right? So the most you can move is 3 spots at a time.
Oh, okay.
So if you're at the bottom of the pack, you got a lot of work to do. But it's not impossible because because these matches happen every 2 to 3 weeks throughout the season. And they're not planned like tour stops are planned. So it is so let's say it's you and I have a match.
Right.
We get a notification that says you have a match that's due, and I'm looking at today's date, right? You have a match that you have to complete by April 28th.
Got it. Okay. And then y'all schedule. We would schedule a date.
Right. So then you have to figure out. So typically, what happens is the representatives from each team, right? There's usually a team rankings representative, right? The president, someone else, whoever it is. They're in this group chat, right? Trying to negotiate where are we bowling, when are we bowling? What time are we bowling? Right? So we have to figure all those out. In some cases, like I mentioned earlier, like we'd have a team like watchmen that are over in the beach area in South Carolina, right? North South Carolina, somewhere over there, right? And we're in Georgia. So typically you want to try and find a house that's halfway in between. Right?
Well, both teams, yeah.
Right. So a lot of times our matches were in Columbia. Right? Because most people wouldn't bowl us in Augusta because we have Charles Wheeler. Right. So most people wouldn't bowl us in Augusta. So it was a lot of Columbia, right? So then you'd have to figure out who's available. Can you get your team? So now you're like, hey team, we're trying to set team rankings for
right
Saturday the 27th at 3:00. Can anybody make it? And you find out yes or no. Well, if no, then you're like, nope, we can't make it that one. What about this date? And so it's literally a negotiation for a couple of days until you set it, right? Until you set it. And then once it's set, then you just go and bowl. And then depending on the outcome, right? And oh, by the way, the losers pay the lineage for everybody.
Mm-mm.
So if my team beats your team, you have to pay the lineage for your team and my team.
Yep.
Right. And then we swap spots. Now, if you're the number 10 and I'm the number 8 and I win and I've been in 8 and we win, nobody can call me out from a lower seed because I've now defended my spot. And so nobody can call me out. I can call upward, but nobody can call me from behind.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, there's these little nuances. I'm telling you, read the rules. If you don't understand, ask, because sometimes people assume people know and they don't. So if you read. I encourage everybody. The playing rules are available. Read. Yeah. There's also what happens is somewhere in I think it's like the January, February, maybe even March timeframe, you get into this place where you can't move. You're stuck because some of the matches at the very top, like 1 through 5, it just becomes this big log jam and you can't move up because now not only 2 teams could call out the same team, like as you get. So let's say you're the number 2 team and I'm the number 5 team. Let's say I call you out and Critical Role calls you out. Now it looks at the timestamp of who did it first.
Oh, wow.
They get the match first. And then us as a number 5 team, we're sitting and waiting until that match happens before our match can get scheduled. And if there's someone else that got in between us, then we have to wait 2 matches.
Oh, wow. So
this big cluster log jam, so to speak. I think that's what Leonard is talking about, right? It becomes this log jam.
Wow.
And then you're kind of stuck because an advantage of being the number 1 seed, and this is, what I remind our team when we're participating, right? You have to get beat in your home house to drop out of number 1. So you don't have to travel. Everyone travels to you.
Oh, no matter where you're at.
No matter where you're at. So, no, if you're the number 1 seed.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
If Hitman is number 1, everybody has to travel to Raleigh.
No matter how far.
Until they get beat, right? When DSL was the only team in Georgia, people hated it when we were making a climb because nobody wanted to make the drive to Lilburn. And there were some cases that people didn't even want to make the drive to Columbia and they would forfeit.
Yeah, I had that.
Yep, we can't get a team together. We'll just forfeit. You guys take, and you still have to pay, right? You have to pay the fees whether you bowl or not.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah, so but I will tell you, it's a ton of fun. It's a total separate event with a separate prize fund than season tour.
And I heard there's gambling doing in that too. Some people say they may do 100, 200, 300 a man.
I've seen all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff.
Now, transition a little bit. Let's stay with bowling because you mentioned it, and I know you have to go soon. 3 ways you improve bowling to get bowling more, I guess, mainstream?
What would I like to see?
Yep.
Well, to make it more mainstream, I think, well, anyone can argue with me, but I think bowling needs to be a U.S. Olympic sport,
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
right? It that gives it
Eyes.
eyes from different places, right? It just it the exposure is significantly increased if it's at the Olympic level.
Yep, I agree.
Um, that's one, and I will tell you, I'm a huge advocate anyway, because years ago when I lived in Michigan and I was in college, um, I volunteered for the Michigan Special Olympics, and they had this huge bowling competition, and I can tell you that that was probably the most rewarding experience.
Mm,
And watching these young men and women, because it was by age group, right? Right, Special Olympians bowling and having the level of excitement and winning a medal.
hmm.
Now, can you imagine if it was, the US versus Australia,
Right, right.
right? Or
Now,
against
it used to be
England,
an Olympic sport.
or whatever, right? It's just that whole being able to see that, I think, would be fantastic, right? So that would be it. That's probably my number one thing. I think the number two thing that I think would help. I've seen an uptick, but I don't see it universal, and that is more advocacy to have bowling programs at the high school level that are
Yes,
competitive
yes,
as feeders into collegiate bowling,
I
more
agree.
so than just the youth leagues. And don't get me wrong, I love to see the participation increase for junior gold, right? And I
Right.
think that would be just fantastic.
I
So
agree
those
with you
are
because
probably the two things I would say. Now, there is a controversial topic that I think still remains probably one of the biggest challenges or hindrances that hasn't been truly solved for, in my opinion. And that is sandbagging and handicap versus scratch bowlers, right? So I think at some point, and I haven't, maybe someday I'll be smart enough to figure it out myself. But it would be really good to be able to find a way to identify, reduce, and even control, sandbagging. And an idea that been kind of floating around in my own head was some type of algorithm, right? That has a certain data set that can convert and level the playing field. So, regardless of environmental factors like
Mhm.
topography, um, the weather, right? Placement in the bowling center, if you're in front of the kitchen versus over in the corner, right? I mean, just and, every house is built different. But if you think about, and it would be more than just converting like a sports pattern average
Right,
to,
right.
it would be more than just an average conversion, right? Um, how to figure out that and what the algorithm would be, well, I haven't spent enough time. Maybe my kid will figure that out for me. Um, but something like that to help level the playing field. So you take the sandbagging out. Because I mean, even on the higher average bowlers, right? If they bowl in a tougher house, and there's I could name a handful, right, from my own personal experience, right, which is like around the Atlanta area. For me personally, Forest Park was always more difficult
Mhm.
than a lot of the other centers, right? Um, back when and I don't think Citizen Lanes is still open anymore, but like that was one of the easiest ones down in Union City, right? One of the easiest houses to bowl in. Um, there are folks in like North Carolina, you hear some of the bowlers that
Mm,
bowl in Gastonia, for instance, right? That are on G Town, right? They've got, high 190s or low 200 averages, but they go bowl somewhere else and they average 220.
yeah,
right? So they're just in a very difficult house. That's where they get their average from. And then they go bowl in easier houses and, kick the snot out of people, right? That happens whether you're a handicap bowler or a scratch bowler, when you're in a tougher house like that. So I don't have the full answer there, but it would be awesome
I
to
definitely
come up
understand
with
what you're
something,
saying. Yeah.
right? To come up with something that takes all of those factors into place, and to be able to somehow, some way level the playing field. I think that's something for that will evolve hopefully over time, to cut that out. The second thing is there's always a lot of I hear a lot of complaining or animosity between handicap and scratch bowlers, right? What defines a scratch bowler? Are you a true scratch bowler? Are you a true handicap bowler? Whatever. The fact of the matter is, handicap bowlers outnumber scratch bowlers. I don't care what type of definition you put on it, right? But in order for bowling to be successful and continue to grow, you need both.
Yeah.
You need both. So there's got to be a way, right? And one suggestion I would make is, if you're bowling a handicap tournament, I don't care what percentage you're taking, right? 70% of 240, 100% of 210, whatever it is, that those individual games cap at 300.
Yeah.
300 should be the top score.
Period. Yeah.
Right? Winning a game because you shot 320 just doesn't make sense to me. I've been doing this for a long, long, long time, right?
Yeah.
If the maximum score is 300, but you're allowed someone to go over that because of their handicap, I understand that they bowled that much better over their average to get those pins. I get it. But a scratch bowler, especially if the tournament average is based off of their particular average, they can never get any better than 300.
Yeah.
Right? So that's something I would like to see be a little bit more universal. And that's something we do have control over, right? As various tournament directors, right? Those are things that we have control over. The other thing we don't really have control over, but that is something that we do. Because I mean, the sport needs both. They really do, or it's never going to.
I agree.
Not just now, but in generations to come.
Yeah, I think I think League Pals, Ed made a point. League Pals has a system in place, and I think League Pal is going to ultimately I think we're going to see a change because of League Pal, the way they're doing things. If I'm being honest, the USBC allows, to me, okay, if we can update League Secretary, we can update bowl.com. It makes no sense that it's not updated on a regular as the season is going on, because if we go into a tournament and we see somebody's current season average, where they at right now should be determined based off of their tournament, not where they were last year, especially if it was lower. And I definitely agree with you. There needs to be an algorithm, something done. And once again, I will say this every episode. That's why I started this, so we can start having that conversation, to hopefully somebody can implement a change, instead of us keep saying, "Oh, it's been that way." Thank you for coming on today and starting a lot of conversation, clearing up a lot of stuff today too with with DSL. Definitely looking forward. Always excited to see. One thing about DSL, they have a lot of great people. And I'm not just talking about bowlers. Great people that just help out. We talked to, you named a lot of names, people that helped me in my game, and just a willingness to help. And a lot of things I will say about DSL that is misconstrued, that they're approachable. If you ask them a question about anything, they'll answer it. A lot of people think, I've seen Tyrone Stevens practicing or just in the accident. Hey man, how is it you're able to do this? And he doesn't hold back. Anything. I've talked to Eugene, talked to Corey Richardson, talked to a lot of bowlers from DSL. So I want to thank you for doing what you've done and starting those tournaments, because that's what helped start at the Outsiders, the helped me create some great relationships. Because I'm not gonna lie, when I was in Georgia, I didn't have no friends before. No friends in Georgia. Before I came into the bowling world, because before COVID, I was a workaholic. That's all I did. I worked, went home, ate, worked. And then when COVID kind of shut and made everybody sit down, the bowling alley was the first thing open.
Yep.
Um, and that's when I went into the bowling alley, met a couple of people. We started going to tournaments. Your tournament also. Um, and that's what got the outsider started. I remember asking you, "What is this DSL? What is this?" You
I
know, and then
remember.
we asked to join, and you was like, "No, we're looking for people to start their own team." And I remember it was me, Karan, Bobski, and I think it was Dana and Hawk. We was all sitting at the table, and right when you told us the information, we looked it up. And I think we had a team, and I think that first year they wasn't sure if they were going to have a team. Um, they wasn't sure.
I
Laughing at
remember that
Tyrone.
too. Screwing up the lanes, man.
Hey, I didn't know anything at the time. All I knew was bowling ball. They was like, "Hey, man, why you keep throwing urethane?" I was like, "Bowling ball." I don't know what
I
urethane
remember.
is. It's a
I
bowling ball,
remember.
man. and
Well, it's good to know, and that some of those conversations, that sparked your interest and got you excited, and building the outsiders. I see that you guys are having your own success, which is fantastic. Um, you know, the entire experience is pretty fun
yes,
from my seat, right? Um, Even on Sunday afternoons when I'm sitting outside, trying to decompress from all the craziness of life, right?
hmm
I'm like, wait a minute, my team's on today, and I want to see what's going on. I want to pay attention to the page. So, um, the one thing that in closing, that I will say is probably one of the best things about bowling in general, at least from my experience, is the relationships that you build,
yes,
right? So I've moved across the country, right, north, south, east, and west, as an adult. And there's always been one spot that I knew I could walk in and feel comfortable, even
yep,
if I didn't know a soul.
yep,
Whether that be I walk in and just practice, or I'm walking in and seeing if they need a sub. And it
yes,
just evolves from there. And even, I've lived in Michigan, I've lived in California, I lived in Georgia, I've lived in Texas, and I've visited many of other states, right? If I'm in any of those other states and stuck at the airport or something went sideways, I can probably guarantee there's somebody in every one of
yes,
those spots that I
yeah.
can call because I
hmm
was in a situation and needed some assistance if I didn't
hmm
have means. And that when I'm not just talking about acquaintance that you just pass in a bowling center. I mean,
Right.
there's real relationships that can be built and you can leverage. And you know, being able to build those relationships and maintain them over time, in my opinion, is probably the best reward.
Yes, I agree, and that's why I think we had a show a couple of last week about mental health, and I think that's what really has gotten my mental health even better than what it was, because I had our I think it was our first year or second year I had an episode, and if it wasn't for the people I met in the bowling alley, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't have made it, but it would have been a lot harder to make it without them. They're supporting me, and they continue to support me to this day. And like you said, those relationships, that's why I will always try to promote this sport that we love to get
Yep.
bigger and better. And that's why I started this, so we can help make this sport I love. Because as much as it helped me, I know what it can do for the next. And hearing your stories and other people's stories of how great this sport is, it needs to be lifted up, in a bigger light, so people can take advantage of that and gain, the confidence that they have to even talk to people. Because I know a lot of people don't even talk to people because they're scared to approach people. But like you just said, if you need help, there's always somebody in the bowling alley that at least knows somebody
Yeah, yeah.
that can
The
help.
connections are
Yeah.
it really is a small community, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. It really
Hmm.
is, and people know people, and that's probably one of the things I learned from my dad years ago is the importance of building and maintaining relationships because you just never know,
Never.
and I think most of you guys know my main jersey name is Daddy's Legacy. And
Mm,
my dad passed away 10 years ago. And one of
yeah.
the things he said before he died is please stay active in the bowling community. You need
Mm,
it and it needs you.
and
So that's part of why I do what I do. It's, and the relationship part for me, I'm extremely competitive, don't get me wrong, right? But
right,
it's
right.
the relationships that keep things grounded, if you will.
Yes, and like you said, and I know he's smiling because you have left and are continuing to grow a legacy of your own here in Georgia, and Texas. I know they're going to be picking your brain as well because I met some of the UBA bowlers in Texas at the military tournament, and they were fired up. They were ready to talk trash. They're not anybody. If you, I don't know if they have going to have an event in the future where they include them in the playoffs or whatever. But if you see that team, trust me, they are going to be bringing it home when you see them.
Yeah, they started with a half season tour, which is starting to wrap up, I think. And then some of their bowlers even went to Mega Bowl. So if anyone was at Mega
Mm,
Bowl, they had some representation at Mega Bowl in Virginia right a month ago or so. Um, so yeah, it's starting to gear up. They've had a couple of events. I was unable to go to. I wanted to go, but I had life trumped bowling.
mm,
So I was unable to, but I'm hoping that they will continue because there are centers in Texas that are large centers, right? 60 plus lanes,
yes.
right? So they can house an event um, much easier than some of the houses in Georgia, for instance, that are,
Yeah.
32 or 40 lanes, right?
And I don't think people really know how big that Texas bowling community really is.
It's
It is
huge.
huge.
It's huge there. So just as a little snippet for that, I'm trying to pay attention to the time, but it's all right. I'm enjoying the conversation. So um, we are on a team now in the mixed travel league. So they have a mixed travel league here. It's pretty big. It's called Striking for a Cause up here in North Texas. And there are 58 teams. And they
50.
bowl 58, 5-8.
That's a lot.
And they can have up to 8 men on an 8-person roster for every team.
Man.
Now, they may not have 8, but they can
Right,
have
right, right.
right 58 teams just in that's just the mixed travel league. They have a men's travel league, they have other things. So, and that's outside of the normal
Right, leagues and stuff.
leagues and tournaments and just the standard stuff. So, the UBA hasn't quite blossomed yet. They've started, but I think once it really starts to get out, at least I'm hoping that we'll see some pretty good growth. But like a lot of things, right? My last final comment, right? The UBA isn't for everybody,
Yeah.
and you have to be self aware that it's not for everybody. But if you can embrace the culture and enjoy your teammates and have fun while you're rolling a ball, I am an advocate of this organization.
Yes. And it will make you better. Like when and I'll close with this story also. One thing I always accredit to is Dre in North Carolina, Greensboro area. The tournaments he normally throws a preseason tournament, and if it wasn't for that tournament, that first year we would have got our head bashed in. I didn't even like we was competitive because I went there and I was like, all right, we got to recruit because I was no I'm I mean I'm not saying I'm a top caliber bowler now, but I'm nowhere near where I, now where I was back then. back then when I went to Dre's tournament and I just saw all the UBA jerseys, and I saw the main thing I could just remember thinking is like, God damn, everybody's striking. That's all I kept saying to myself, like everybody's striking. And I know at the time I wasn't striking enough. So I knew we had to do two things. We had to get better and we had to recruit.
Yep.
And if you're looking to get better, and the UBA can help you get there because it will force you to get your tail in there and practice.
Not only that, but there are a lot of extremely knowledgeable bowlers in the UBA.
Yes.
Right. Extremely knowledgeable. I mean, I will continue to say it, right, that I am extremely blessed to know that we have some fantastic coaches on DSL.
Yes.
Right. And you don't have to be a certified coach to know how to coach, right? Or to know how to motivate, right? You have to be a great motivator to be successful. And that's all. If you as a coach for young kids, and I think you used to officiate basketball if you don't still, right? And
Yes.
There's some others I think that officiate football or coach football, right? One of the things you teach kids, and I've even taught adult and said to adults, you have to be coachable.
Yep.
Right? You have to be coachable. You have to be able to take criticism. You have to be able to apply. You have to have the want and desire to get better. That's what builds great teams.
I definitely agree. Got it. Well, man, I want to say thank you for joining us. Anytime you want to come back, anytime you want to have a conversation. As you know, we always be talking about some crazy things, crazy ideas, and just like I said, just getting a conversation just going. Would love to have you on, for those further discussion. We'd love to have more UBA owners on, as we just have like a kind of like a what they call it, a town hall discussion one day, and talk about things that we would like to make change, and maybe even get Tynell, like you said, to even so we can actually, I think a lot of things, I don't want to say it's done in the dark, but I think, a town hall discussion would be fun to kind of implement change so we can see where everybody, like I said, you just never know who has the idea, holding in and maybe scared to say it. And we can give them a platform to say the idea,
Yep.
So, but I want to once again thank you. I want to say good luck to DSL and y'all for the rest of the season. I hope we don't see y'all until Battle Bowl.
You'll see us before then.
Well,
depends on how big of a push you have for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Never know.
I think it's going to get interesting. Yeah, like you said, y'all got Critical Role coming up. We have Full Throttle twice. I think Critical Role is really going to be the X factor. They're either going to play spoiler or they're going to punch their ticket. I think because I think Southern Asylum has Top Shelf, and then they have Critical Role. So I think it's going to be, and I think High Caliber, I think if I'm being honest, I think you and High Caliber are going to walk into the playoffs. But that third spot is going to come to us, Southern Asylum, and Critical Role down probably to that last day.
Probably, at least the way it's shaping right now. I mean, our thought is to just continue to win as many points as we can, right? Mm-hmm. Knock down as many pins as we can, win as many points as we can to create some separation, right? To create separation. So then even if, we have a C team that's available, they don't feel the same amount. They don't feel pressure like, oh my gosh, because pressure does things to people, right?
Yes.
And that's maybe a conversation for the next time, right? Talking about the importance of pressure, being able to make shots under pressure is very difficult. But we've got a veteran at that, right? That knows how to do that. Mr. Stevens, he's done it many, many, many times. Charles Withers has done it many, many, many times. So, we've got some experience there to talk about it. And it'd be great for those guys to chime in.
Oh, yeah. I'll talk to Charles. I talked to Mr. Stevens about coming on. I'll talk to Juice about coming on. The world champ Juice. I'm sorry. Let me put some respect on his name. But thank you. We're gonna go ahead and close out. We will try to what's today? Well, I'll try to get on again this weekend. And we'll talk and recap some upcoming tournaments that's going on. But I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Thank you once again, Amanda, and I hope everybody has a great night, morning, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah. Y'all take care. Have a good rest of the week.
You too.
Yep. Bye.